It's SRA, so that's the satanic ritualistic abuse of children. So it's not just engaging in sex with these kids; they're involved in satanic abuse. They torture them and they abuse them in satanic rituals, and they believe that they are, channeling these like dark forces, these evil forces, and it gives them power.
Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I truly mean it. You guys are making a difference for us, and we're in turn trying to make a difference in this country, trying to bring back a constitutional form of republic where justice is served against the elite criminals, and I think there's a lot of good news happening. We're following the QAnon information very closely, and I got to tell you, one of the best Twitter accounts out there is Liz Crokin's. I retweet a lot of her stuff. I suggest you follow her on Twitter immediately. And Liz is joining us right now. Liz, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, I'm great. It's so nice to have you back. And I just want to say something to you. I am so proud of you and what you're doing, because you are moving heaven and earth to try to shine light on these vampiric elite pedophiles. And God bless you for doing it.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're doing the same thing, so I applaud you as well.
Well, look, we're all trying to move heaven and earth here because it's really a battle for humanity, isn't it? These people, look, if the information coming from QAnon, and there's a lot of stuff to suggest that not only is QAnon for real, things are actually happening. I want to cite this information from Q, put out on December 18th. Clock started 10 days. That brings us to today, Liz, December 28th, and weird stuff is happening, like that flight from LAX to Tokyo with Christy Teigen and her husband John Legend aboard, which turned back after 4 hours, halfway there. They turned back saying, oh, we have an unauthorized person on the flight. Person with a ticket on United got on the wrong plane. What a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, so I actually was en route to California when all this was going on. I didn't pick up on it though until actually after I arrived in California. But I was in a layover when this was going on with Chrissy Teigen's flight, and there was actually, during my layover, I was just sitting at a desk charging my phone, and there was a flight attendant sitting next to me, and she said that I wasn't really paying attention to her. She was kind of talking to a group of us. Now I'm like, I should have listened to everything she was saying because I didn't realize this plane had been turned around at this point. But she said that there was all kinds of problems going on in the skies that day. She said there was really strange stuff going on. She's like, there's just been really unusual activity going on and delays and problems with flights. And the people around her were like, oh, it's the day after Christmas. It's probably because it's like the most busy travel day of the year. And she's like, no, it's not that. She's like, it's more than that. There's more than that going on. So then I arrived in California, and after I got home, I went on Twitter, and that's when I saw the information about Chrissy Teigen and John Legend's flight being turned around. So what happened is their flight took off from LAX, and it was on the ANA Airlines. That I don't know if it's ANA or if it's ANA, whatever, but it was headed to Tokyo. And 4 hours into the flight, they turned the flight around. And the great thing about someone like Chrissy Teigen being on a flight like that, well, A, she obviously has a huge Twitter following, so she has a huge voice. But B, she's obsessed with Twitter. She's constantly tweeting. So she was updating everyone as to what was going on. And they turned the flight around, and apparently the authorities interviewed every single person on that plane. And according to people that were on the plane that tweeted this, they said that there was 4 people that were apprehended on that flight. I believe they said that it was 1 Muslim, 2 Asians, and 1 white male. I believe that's what they said.
Yeah, I believe I saw that as well last night on Twitter.
Okay, yeah, and now also as this was happening, what else was happening? There were other flights grounded at other airports in California, and one of them was San Francisco. There was only 1 flight from San Francisco that was, that was allowed to depart from that airport for a significant amount of time. So when this stuff happens, what I do as an investigative journalist, I go on Twitter and I do different kinds of search, and I look at different sources to try to figure out what's really going on, because we both know you'll never get the real story from the mainstream media. And what I noticed with San Francisco that I thought was really interesting is that about at least an hour, maybe 2 hours after the flights were grounded and being stalled and held at the SFO airport, there was allegedly an earthquake in the San Francisco area. And then all of a sudden people started, some people, they were probably shills, started tweeting that these flights were being held and they were being grounded because of the earthquake. Well, the flights were held hours before the earthquake happens. And that's when you really know that something's going on, when like there's people that are actively trying to change the narrative or, misdirect the story into a different direction. In addition to that, there was a CNN reporter that tweeted Chrissy Teigen and tried to minimize her flight being turned around. I can't remember what that person said. I retweeted it, but the CNN reporter said something along the lines of like, it was just, so someone boarded the wrong flight. That's like, they said something like someone boarded the wrong flight and that's why they turned the whole plane around. And it was interesting because Chrissy Teigen, who is not red-pilled at all, as we know, and has ties to the occult and ties to Hillary Clinton, she was like, no, actually, I witnessed 4 people being detained. So it was interesting watching her school this like fake news reporter that was like obviously trying to put out a false narrative as to what really went on with that flight. Now, I have friends that work in the airline industry. I have friends that have been flight attendants, pilots, either have been or currently are. And I have been told that if someone is having a heart attack, if someone is trying to hijack a plane, someone told me that there was an incident that one of their friends was on a plane, recently, and someone tried to get in the cockpit and they basically restrained the guy, put him in plastic handcuffs, and they didn't turn the plane around. Planes don't turn around, especially 4 hours into a flight. If there's an emergency, like a real emergency, they'll land the plane at the closest airport. They don't turn planes around.
Right.
Something really, really big went down. And the mainstream media, of course, is ignoring it, and they're trying to deflect from the story or put out lies about it. But something very big went down. And now as this was happening, what else was happening? A bunch of flights with their call numbers blocked were headed to Guantanamo Bay.
That's right. Right. I was ready to go there, and I didn't know we'd get there quite so quickly. We have actual reports now, this one coming from Robert David Steele, claiming that the Podesta brothers have been arrested and their passports seized. So many rumors out there, some of the rumors coming from very reliable sources or well-connected sources. And I can play a clip for you from Robert David Steele in a minute, but just flush that out a little bit more about those flights going to Gitmo. What is that?
Well, first let's just start with what we know to be a 100% fact that even the MSM has acknowledged. Tony Podesta, he resigned from his position at the Podesta Group, which is a lobbying firm, months ago, okay? And he was subpoenaed. So we know that Tony Podesta is in trouble. And we also know that Tony Podesta knows he's in trouble because he resigned as CEO from the Podesta Group, And so, of course, I find that, the arrest warrants with Tony and John, or at least Tony, to be very credible. I've heard from multiple sources or I've read from multiple sources that, he's been detained for a very long period of time. I mean, no one's seen the guy in literally months. Nothing. No one's seen him. I think the last sighting was in October for him. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if both of them are sitting in a jail cell right now. Now, in terms of the flights going to Guantanamo Bay, here's what, again, let's just look at the facts of what we know to be fact. We know that Mad Dog Mattis, General Mattis, went to Guantanamo Bay right before Christmas, okay? We also know that this past year, and this has been in the mainstream media, they've barely touched upon it, but this has been the mainstream media. We also know that they have been not only renovating Guantanamo Bay, they've been expanding it this entire year under President Trump's presidency. And we also know that Attorney General Jeffrey Sessions also visited Guantanamo Bay this summer. So obviously they have some really big plans for Guantanamo Bay, or else none of these things would be happening, right?
And now we're looking at all these crazy flight irregularities of people coming and going, or trying to go, flights being turned around. General Mattis goes out to Gitmo. Anything there that has been dropped by Q or any of the Anons on the boards that seem interesting?
Very interesting. So today, an Anon pointed us to a whole lot of flights that were going straight to Gitmo. And the interesting thing is, when we pulled them up on flight radar, that they were all traveling at 40,000 feet. Now, that's a dangerous height for a pressurized plane. There's a serious risk of depressurization. However, the trade-off is you can go a good deal faster because the air is so thin. So our conclusion is there were, and these planes were also surrounded by escorts. So
there were no tail numbers posted up on the flight radar website. No identifying information, no destination, no information identifying.
And this is complete. This is a complete anomaly.
Transponders were going on and off, and so the big picture conclusion was that there were dozens of flights from all over the world converging on Guantanamo Bay today and last evening.
And this is out of the ordinary. This has never been. There's no precedent of this ever matched in the past. There's never this much air traffic going to Guantanamo.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's very interesting.
Right. Well, look, from a libertarian perspective, none of us would like more than Guantanamo Bay just to be shut down. However, if they're going to use it to house some of the world's most evil people who have betrayed our country and committed treason, then that's certainly a good thing. And what I just want to say about these QAnon posts, guys, and this information is that these are breadcrumbs. And as journalists, we need to follow these breadcrumbs that are being left and try to build a narrative that makes sense. And here's an important piece of the puzzle. Missing from Twitter for the past 30 days, George Soros. Michelle Obama, 15 days, no word. John Podesta, 9 days. Hillary Clinton, haven't heard a word in 3 days. Bill Clinton, 8 days. And now this, a 4-year-old Christmas photo from Barack Obama. This is a picture, guys, that was taken on December 15th, 2015 by Pete Souza, the photographer, and posted this year as though it was a fresh Christmas picture from the Obamas. I mean, how weird is that? So the preponderance of the evidence suggests that there is a lot of very strange stuff going on. Hopefully it is a deep state counter coup by Trump arresting hardcore criminals. And as it pertains to these strange flights and the flight information, I suggest everybody go to Twitter and follow Scott Anthony Justice. That's at Scott Anthony USA. You're just over the target, and you take a lot of flack for being over the target. You've become a target of these evil people because you're willing to speak about the problem of, well, in Washington, D.C., it's Pizzagate. That's the D.C.-centric problem of child sex trafficking, and globally it's known as Pedogate. And you're not going to stop talking about it. That's what I love about you.
No, absolutely not. I get attacked constantly. I've been talking about Pizzagate and Pedogate for, a year and a half now. And, anyone that talks about it gets attacked in some way, shape, or form. But I have a bigger platform. And since I am a real journalist with a really solid background, I'm a bigger target. I'm a bigger threat to them. So President Trump retweeted MAGA Pill. MAGA Pill is a blog that's kind of like the Drudge Report, and he outlines, all of the different achievements President Trump has had within his presidency. But he also wrote this fantastic article about Q. And when President Trump retweeted his blog, he had already posted the article about Q, which I thought was amazing because that was just another way of President Trump legitimizing Q. But when President Trump retweeted MAGA Pill on Twitter, his MAGA Pill's pinned tweet was a video of myself talking about the child sex trafficking, Pizzagate, Pedogate, and how there's a sex tape involving Hillary Clinton, Uma Abedin, and a minor allegedly on Anthony Weiner's laptop, which I've been told by many credible sources. So that was his pinned tweet. So when President Trump retweeted MAGA Pill, who at that point in time didn't have that big of a following. Whenever President Trump retweets an unknown person, someone that's not a mainstream name like Anderson Cooper, everybody goes to that person's Twitter handle to see who they are. Well, when people went to this guy's Twitter handle that whole day after President Trump retweeted him, my video was the pinned tweet and just started playing, and I'm talking about Hillary Clinton being a pedophile. So that ruffled a lot of feathers. That pissed off the deep state. That pissed off a lot of people. And immediately afterwards, my accounts were hacked. I was followed multiple times, and when I was with multiple friends. My phone turned on and recorded myself. My phone turned on by itself and recorded a conversation I had with my girlfriend in her car as we were driving, actually, to go to Hillary Clinton's book signing in Pasadena, California. And they hacked this video of us that I didn't take and posted it on my Facebook page, and it was edited too, but they posted it as if it was live. So I know for a fact it was a hack. But they've been doing stuff like that, to me. Like, I texted my friend the other day, right after I texted my friend one word, and after I texted my friend that word, my email account was hacked, and my name in my email account was changed to that word. And so, and then on top of that, now my friends have been targeted. My one girlfriend, Anna Kate, who was on Survivor, and she's totally red-pilled Trump supporter. She has a show that runs on YouTube, and it also runs on Mike Cernovich's network. We're really good friends. She just came to stay with me right before Christmas. And the last time I did her show, a few days after I did her show, her entire YouTube channel was wiped out. And when we were here in California together, we went to a Christmas party, a Trump, I should add, a MAGA Christmas party together, and we were followed there. And that's just the kind of stuff that happens when you are covering psychopaths who rape babies. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And the last time we talked, you brought up the fact that, they basically took out a hit on Steve Scalise, Representative Steve Scalise, who had produced that PSA about the problem of human trafficking in the United States in every city around the country. This isn't an isolated problem. This is a national problem and a global problem. And a would-be assassin tried to take him out.
While many of us would like to believe that this issue isn't something that affects us, the sad truth is that human trafficking is a real problem plaguing each and every community here in the United States. Enough is enough.
When you talk about these things, you become a target. Now, we have President Trump recently signing an executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Human rights abuse, read between the lines, folks, that's pedophilia, that's child sex trafficking, among many other crimes. And I think it's very, very important. So anybody that wants to poo-poo this information as we, these independent journalists, searching a little too hard to read between too many lines and coming up with a fake, false narrative that the hardcore criminals are being targeted. No, I think that the hardcore criminals are being targeted by this president, and I can only hope that these flights to Gitmo hold people like John and Tony Podesta. That might be wishful thinking. I'd almost rather see a perp walk. So I guess that's the question. If that's the case, if these people are being taken to a military detention center to be tried for their treason, that's fantastic. But why not a perp walk?
Well, there has been, I have noticed, and I'm almost 100% positive that this is true, that there has been a strategic, concerted effort behind the scenes with President Trump and the White Hats to slowly condition the public as to what is going on with the global pedophile elites. This information is so shocking, and Q talks about this. This information is so horrific, it's so shocking, it's so unbelievable, and it's so disturbing that the average person that doesn't go on YouTube and doesn't have access to social media and just watches the fake news all day, it would be so disturbing and shocking to most people that most people would have a nervous breakdown just by being dumped with all this information at once.
Right.
So they have to slowly release this information in doses to ease the public into what is really going on behind the scenes. Harvey Weinstein was the first big domino to fall. He was not an accident. Like, the exposure of what he was doing was very strategic. But what was exposed about him? He's a very powerful man. He's connected to a lot of people in Washington, D.C., and Hillary Clinton, of course. But he's a serial rapist. He's a disgusting pig. I wouldn't put it past him to be abusing children as well. We haven't really, there's been Roger Stone claims that he was, but that's to be determined. But we do know that he's a serial rapist. He's a horrible person. And now he's sexually assaulted. The number's up to 100. Last time I checked, it was like 90 something. So, that was shocking to a lot of people to hear about that. And so now people are slowly realizing, oh, wow, these people that we've put on pedestals in Hollywood, like, Harvey Weinstein, and then the Kevin Spacey was next. We learned that, first we learned that Harvey Weinstein was a serial rapist, raping at least adult women that we know of. Then we learned that Kevin Spacey is a serial rapist, but he's raping kids. So we're slowly getting to the more dark stuff. And I believe this is a very concerted effort with the White Hat and with good people in the media, such as people at Breitbart News and Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. They are slowly easing people into this stuff. I've noticed that, Tucker has started talking about the occult a little bit. Breitbart has been talking about the occult a little bit. And, this has been going on actually all summer. I've been tracking it. And then all of a sudden on Halloween, an occult holiday, ironically, what happens? Q pops up. And all of a sudden we have Q, who is revealing all this information about as what's going on behind the scenes with the takedown of the deep state, the takedown of these, pedophile Satanists. But Q's also enlightening us and trying to get us to understand, like, why they're doing this, like why this happens, like where does this stuff stem from? And Q's trying to get us to understand that this is their religion. These people worship Baal, they worship Lucifer, they, whatever you want to call their demonic, God that they worship. But Q's trying to get us to understand this. And I believe that Q is a huge part of this movement to condition people. And the reason why they're having an Anon on 4chan do it is because people like us then relay it to people that don't go on 4chan, that, maybe just go on Twitter, maybe just go on Facebook or whatever. And the way that Q is posing the information is mostly in questions, like where did this happen? Or, like, why does Chelsea Clinton wear a cross or a necklace with an upside down cross, which is a satanic symbol? Q's posing everything as questions. And from a psychological standpoint, it's actually very brilliant, because it's harder to dismiss information when you're the one that's forced to do the research on it. When Q poses something as a question, then we all hop online and research, what does an upside down cross mean? And when you learn it for yourself, A, you retain it better, but B, you're more likely to believe it. Okay, so there's this actual massive campaign going on behind the scenes to red pill everyone to what's going on. And it's really remarkable and it's quite brilliant. And they're doing it in this fashion so people don't freak out. They can't just announce tomorrow that, hey, 1/3 of your government worships Moloch and sacrifices babies and rapes them. I mean, that would cause mass hysteria. So they are slowly letting us know. And I do believe, though, we're getting to the point where they're going to make announcements about the arrests very soon. But I think when that happens, that will probably be in doses as well. As much as I would love to see all these people perp walked and chained and hung, and beat, I don't know if that's going to happen, or it may be a while before that part happens. But again, the information needs to be released in doses, because it's just too horrific and unbelievable for people to take in all at once, and the average person wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's an interesting analysis, and it's sort of my shared analysis of the situation. If we are to believe that there are these things happening behind the scenes, and the QAnon information. By the way, guys, if you question that QAnon is legit, just go watch the Tracy Beans interview with some of the 8chan guys. I think we've got 20 different proofs, more than that, 20 proofs that QAnon is very legit and very close to President Trump. So this is real information. There are real things happening. I can only hope that it succeeds for the benefit of humanity, because this truly is, Liz, a fight for the very soul of humanity. You and I have made the point on Twitter and in interviews that the key to bringing down the deep state satanic elite is Pizzagate as it pertains to Washington, D.C., and Pedogate globally as it pertains to the British royals and the rest of these elite Luciferians. This is this is not only important stuff, it is the most important stuff we can talk about, guys, because look, when Liz mentions the elite worship Moloch, they've been doing it for decades just here in this country, going to the Bohemian Grove with that Alex Jones secret video in which he shows them doing a mock sacrifice in front of a great owl god, Moloch. And I guess what I would say, Liz, is this. You mentioned Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. God bless them for joining the fight here because, they are mainstream journalists. So it does actually add credence to the idea that there are warring factions here. The CNN, Anderson Cooper, Wolf Blitzer faction, MSNBC faction versus what's happening at Fox, where there's some real truth coming on a nightly basis from Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, and I will also say that I have a lot of inside information about Sean and Tucker, and some people are like, well, why doesn't Sean talk about this, and he doesn't talk about Pedogate and X, Y, and Z? Sean has risked his life every single day to expose as much as he can. The man I'm shocked that he's still alive. I mean, it's unbelievable he's still alive. He has risked his life to expose what he has exposed that no one else in the mainstream media is exposing. He almost lost his entire job for just mentioning, I think twice, Seth Rich's murder, just talking about Seth Rich's murder and the mystery behind it. He almost lost his job because of that. They attacked him in, horrific ways. I mean, who knows how they threaten him and his family behind the scenes. I know what they do to me. I mean, they freaking poisoned my dog. They almost killed my dog after one of my big stories on Hillary Clinton came out. I mean, these people are ruthless. So, people that, try to criticize people like Sean Hannity and Tucker, well, why don't they talk about it? Because they can't. They can't. They'd be immediately fired, like Ben Swan from CBS, the only person in the mainstream media that talked about Pizzagate. All of his social media accounts were immediately suspended, and he was forced to go on a leave of absence. He was threatened by his employers, his direct employers, and he was threatened by outside entities after that happened. And I know that firsthand, and I actually got more information about that not too long ago. So it's like people's hands are tied. But let me tell you, Sean that guy has got balls. There have been things that he has been told that he's not allowed to cover, or there's been people that he's been told that he's not allowed to interview. And Sean has conveniently, when he's been, let's say, live in the fields reporting, happened to bump into certain people that he wasn't supposed to interview because the deep state didn't approve. And he still did it. So that man is a hero, and he's got balls, and he's doing as much as he can, with the platform that he has. And, it wouldn't be worth it for him to one day mention Pizzagate because he'd be fired the next day, and then he wouldn't be as powerful without that platform. Because, like people like my parents, for example, they don't go on social media. They don't go on YouTube. My mom's never used a computer. So, they get all their information from me. They would have no idea about Q and the storm and the child sex trafficking if it wasn't for me. But they do get some really good information, not about those topics, but about other things that are very important from Sean Hannity. So it's important to keep, people like him on air.
Well, absolutely, and so many of the public still. I mean, I guess it's the people on the left that drink the libtard Kool-Aid that only get their news from CNN or MSNBC or the Washington Post. So Those are the people. And look, there was a tweet that I saw from Q, or a post from Q I saw not too long ago that said something to the effect that only 4 to 6% of the American people are truly hopelessly brainwashed. The rest of the population is going to wake up to these crimes, and we're going to take the country back. And I think that's true. I think most people are able to wake up to the horrors that are going on with this pedophilia issue and the child sex trafficking, if it's trickled out and if they can take it in little drips and drabs. Most people, you're right, most people cannot take it all at once. And so if all these people were arrested and if perp walks, happened right away, all at once, then the crooked mainstream media would spin it as a Trump coup.
Exactly. And I think you're right about that number. I will say that I have noticed, I'm sure you've noticed this as well, you know, a year ago, even just like 3 months ago, you know, I still was getting a lot of hate, and just, you know, a lot of my close friends, you know, thought I was crazy. I mean, they know I'm not crazy, but they think that the stuff that I'm putting out there is crazy. They think it's a stretch. They think that, that's, you know, they know that some of the child sex trafficking is real, but some of the stuff, you know, like the rituals, like the spirit cooking and that kind of stuff, they think that that's a stretch. Well, just recently, I can't tell you how many people who have reached out to me and have apologized to me and have told me, oh my God, like I met someone that, you know, works for, you know, this police department, or I met someone that works in the FBI, or like, you know, my brother-in-law or works in the military, or like, there's been so many people that I know that used to think that the things that I've been talking about for well over a year were insane and I was losing my mind. They are now learning that I'm right. They're learning on their own that this stuff is real. I'm not crazy. I'm not making this stuff up. They're learning on their own that this stuff is real. So the campaign, the campaign with the white hats to slowly disseminate this information and to slowly wake up the world to what is really going on, it's working. I mean, I had a woman call me about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even know this, but apparently she defriended me on Facebook and like just like hated me because of the stuff I was talking about, because I supported Trump and, you know, was talking about the child sex trafficking, and like she thought I was like just totally wacky, and you know, I guess she just thought I was wrong about everything that I've been talking about. I had her send me these text messages, like, you know, telling me, Liz, I am so sorry. I am totally red-pilled now. You know, she's connecting me with some other people that she knows that know that this stuff is going on in Hollywood firsthand. This woman works in Hollywood. And I talked to her on the phone the other night, and she was practically in tears. And, you know, it's wonderful. I mean, there's so many people, Sean. We're not alone anymore. We're not, you know, we're growing in numbers. People are waking up. I mean, I had another girlfriend who, she's not political at all. Okay. She is not political. She hates talking about politics. She doesn't want to get involved in any political discussions, but she met a detective who works in the sex crimes division in Los Angeles. And she called me a few weeks ago freaking out. And she's like, you're not going to believe this, but she's like, I had an off the record interview. She's a reporter too, by the way, which is great. She said, I had an off the record interview with the sex crimes detective in Los Angeles. And I asked him, is it true that the Clinons are pedophiles? And he looked her straight in the eye and said, which one?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, like, is it really real? And he's like, it is not only real, he's like, you have no idea how much worse it is than you even know. And that prompted her. So she went from also thinking I was being extreme and crazy with all this stuff. That prompted her from having that mindset, thinking I was, you know, a Looney Tune for exposing this and talking about this stuff. So she went from that to posting on her own social media page saying, this is real. I had a detective that works in the sex crimes unit look me dead in the eye and say the Clintons are pedophiles.
Fantastic.
She's a pedophile. And this is a woman, and it was so powerful because she has no agenda. She's never once posted anything pro-Hillary or anti-Hillary or anything pro-Trump or anti-Trump. She's not political, so her voice has so much value to it. But there's so many people like that coming out that don't have a political agenda, that are realizing, oh my God, the people that have been talking about this and exposing this, they're not crazy. This is real. This is horrible. And we need to do something about it.
Oh, that's just fantastic. Yeah, because what's going to happen is an army of outraged, just individuals is going to be raised from this, right? An army of us, of Americans. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. You can stand up for kids and stand against evil if you have a heart and a soul. And I like what you said about these people. It's their religion. And the problem, Liz, if you can just give me a second here, I just want to convey to the audience. I know most of the listeners know this, but these people This is their religion. And what a lot of these newer folks who are waking up to this stuff, like your friend, don't or didn't understand previously, is this has been going on for decades in the UK. I would direct everybody to go to my site, thephaser.com, and search for this video. It's titled Pedogate, The Horrifying Royal Secret Diana Knew. It's from my friend Jay Meyer's documentaries on YouTube. You could just go directly to his YouTube channel. He titled it The Big Secret Diana Knew. And it's all about the royals, sex trafficking, and pedophilia. It goes up to Prince Charles. It involves the Queen, their best buddy Jimmy Savile, who trafficked in children. Lord Edward Heath was involved in allegedly the murders of 16 children. This comes from his own offspring making these charges. This is how deep it goes. And so is it any wonder, guys, that there would be a pedophilia, child sex trafficking ring in Washington, D.C., when so many of these people in Washington, D.C., like the Clintons, they worship the Rothschilds and the Queen of England. It was Lady Rothschild who held multiple $100,000 fundraisers for Hillary Clinton. Okay, this goes to the very, very top. And Ronald Bernard, the Dutch banker, has told us that at the very, very top, these elite worship Satan and sacrifice children. He was invited to one of these ceremonies where he was invited to murder a child, and his heart unfroze, and now he fights for humanity. Yeah. This is the real story of what we're up against. And Liz, I just can't thank you enough for all you're doing. If we could take another 5-10 minutes, I'd even play this bite from Robert David Steele if you want to hear it, and we could round out the conversation that way. But your thoughts on anything I've just said for the unwoke?
Yeah, I just, people really need to understand that the sexual abuse, for most of these people, it's the satanic, it's SRA. So that's the satanic ritualistic abuse of children. So it's not just engaging in sex with these kids. They're involved in satanic abuse. They torture them and they abuse them in satanic rituals. And they believe that they are, channeling these like dark forces, these evil forces, and it gives them power. People really need to understand that this is their religion, to understand that A, this is real, and B, why this is happening and why they're doing this. And there's also, we don't need to get too deep into it, but there's also a science behind it that, they believe, and this has been proven to be true, unfortunately, that there are health benefits from drinking young blood. They also believe that when you torture a younger child, and the adrenaline gets going in the blood, that blood gives you more life, it gives you more energy, they get a high off of this, and then there's the
adrenochrome.
So there are benefits from young blood, and that's why they like drinking young blood. That's why they like bathing in young blood. I mean, if you look in Hollywood, what's the facial that they've been pushing for a good few years now? It's the vampire facial. It's a blood facial. Okay, so there is a whole religious aspect behind the child sex trafficking and the abuse, and there's a scientific aspect behind it as well, and it's all disgusting. But people need to understand that these people, they're not just these sick and twisted sex perverts, which they are, but there's more to that they believe that they are getting power from raping kids, and the younger, the better.
No, you're 100% right. There's a show on HBO I think it's called Silicon Valley, and in the last couple of episodes of this past season, one of the lead characters, the Silicon Valley CEO, has who he calls his blood boy. And he gets these transfusions from his younger blood boy during meetings because he talks about these things that you talk about. It rejuvenates him. It makes him feel younger. Now, if you take that to the next level, the elite drink the blood of the children they sacrifice. I know that sounds crazy, folks, but that is what they do. There's multiple eyewitnesses. Fiona Barrett, so many people have come out and said this is what they do.
Well, and Marina Abramovic, who conducts the spirit cooking dinners that the Podestas go to and all of Clinton's allies go to, has openly talked about how at her spirit cooking dinners, people drink blood. She's admitted it in her own freaking YouTube videos. Like these people don't even hide it that much, because they also believe if they kind of flaunt their evil ways in plain sight, that gives them more power as well. And it's interesting. I haven't seen that show on HBO. I should look into it. But I know in one of your most recent videos, you're talking about Eric Schmidt. And it's very interesting that Eric Schmidt, resigned from his Alphabet agency as CEO. He resigned recently. Eric Schmidt is up to his eyeballs in corruption. I mean, he actively colluded with the Clinton campaign to rig the election using Google against Trump. I did multiple stories on this for The Observer before the election last year. Eric Schmidt also owns a home that is like, I want to say 2 or 3 doors down from the Playboy Mansion. Now, when I read that, I got goosebumps because it's a lot of Anons and Q has talked about the Playboy Mansion, and there's lots of reports that there are underground tunnels underneath the Playboy Mansion because the Playboy Mansion is a CIA operation and they use underground tunnels to traffic kids. So to find out that Eric Schmidt, who is involved in these circles, has a home close to the Playboy Mansion really makes me wonder if his home is connected to these underground tunnels where they traffic the children.
Right. Well, in that video, I did mention, and I played that soundbite from the Alex Jones channel with Alex Jones having a conversation with a caller who claims to have evidence that Eric Schmidt is involved. He's corrupted, compromised at the highest level because of these pedogate type activities, and that information is forthcoming. And it's very, very powerful because the other point made in that video is that standing in opposition to somebody like Eric Schmidt, who loves AI, embraces AI, wants this transhumanist, hellish future, this nightmarish future for humanity, standing in opposition to that are people like Elon Musk who have said, beware AI. AI will be the death of humanity. This is very scary. It's a slippery slope. And, I'm not elevating Elon Musk to, some, high mountain where I praise him like so many do, but we do need people standing in opposition to people like Eric Schmidt who want a transhumanist, satanic future. And I pray that this information about Eric Schmidt comes out because it would topple him and it would put him in, it would deep six him, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's in big trouble. But I also want to note that Harvey Weinstein and Hillary next door to each other. They had summer homes next door to each other. And people need to take note of these things. It's not a coincidence that these elites all have these mansions that are next door to each other. They traffic the kids underground, okay? So it's no coincidence that all these rapists and pedophiles happen to have homes that are right next door to each other.
Right.
They're underground. We know for a fact there's underground facilities and tunnels in D.C. and in L.A. that they use to traffic kids as sex slaves.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on something before I forget, because I reported on this recently, but just from a very cursory 50,000-foot view, because I don't have any information to vet this out. It sounds crazy, but have you heard about the rumors of the Getty Museum and what's going on below the Getty? And I'll just add actual facts to this crazy story. Another one of the Getty sons was just found dead of suspicious causes, appears to be a murder in which he looked to have been anally raped, because we're talking about massive rectal injuries to this Getty son, which I don't even know what to make of that, other than it's a message to would-be pedophiles. I don't know. But have you heard about these rumors about what's going on under the Getty?
Yes, I have. And let me just say this, Sean. As you know, I'm the victim of a sexual assault that almost cost me my life, which is why I fight so hard for sex crime victims and for children. And let's just say that the serial sexual predator who almost completely destroyed my life and almost killed me is very close friends with Gordon Getty. So there's a reason why I'm constantly exposing the Getty Center. And there's a reason why the Getty Center has blocked me on Twitter.
Right.
There are absolutely underground facilities at the Getty Center. The Gettys are a really disgusting group of elites, and it's no secret. I mean, John Paul Getty, the Getty Center was named after him. I mean, there's a movie coming out, I think it might have already come out, about how he wasn't willing to fork over one penny to get his grandson back who had been kidnapped. Okay, these are really horrible, evil, disgusting people. This movie was filmed earlier this year or last year. And who did they choose to play John Paul Getty? Kevin Spacey. No coincidence, Sean, that they chose a known pedophile to play John Paul Getty, and they had to cut the whole movie and take Kevin Spacey out after it came out that, you know, Kevin Spacey is a pedophile. They knew that Kevin Spacey is a serial sexual predator and a pedophile as well. It's no coincidence that he was cast in that role. Okay, so yeah, that family's wicked, and they're up to their eyeballs involved in the child sex trafficking. And I would say that the Getty Center is a nerve center and a hotbed and a very big area of interest. And it's no coincidence that there was fires all around the Getty that happened recently.
Well, and I'll just say this as it pertains to that Getty Center. I mean, no expense was spared building that place, guys. And after its construction, I believe John Paul Getty was knighted by the Queen. So there's a relationship there, yep, too. It said that ultimately would be a respite or a place for the royals to flee to, should they ever need to. Boy, we're going down the rabbit hole there, but it's quite the story. And I guess we could just round out the conversation playing this soundbite from Robert David Steele, because I do think it's good news, whether you believe what he's saying or not. And I have reason to believe what he's saying is true. So can I play this for you?
Yeah, go for it.
Let me know if you don't hear this. Here it comes.
I actually wrote a letter, a certified letter to James Comey, pointing out to him that Hillary Clinton was at the intersection of treason, pedophilia, charity fraud, and election fraud. Comey did not answer. What is happening right now is that the two Podesta brothers, I believe, have already been arrested. Their passports were canceled. Donald Trump has been absolutely brilliant with Jeff Sessions in rolling up the pedophiles based on a tip that I gave him through the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And so we have all the evidence from the NSA databases of all of this. That was evidence that was previously been concealed because NSA doesn't process everything. We now have it all. These people are toast. Now, I have recommended a truth and reconciliation approach. I believe it's more important to educate the public and the world about the crimes against humanity that not just the Clintons, but the Obamas and the Bushes as well have been, and the Cheneys, of course, have been responsible for. It is more important to educate the public than it is to hang a few traitors. So truth and recon for me is a very important concept that should also apply to the Rothschilds and George Soros and others, as long as there's complete and open testimony.
Liz, I wanted to play that for you because I think some of what he's saying, I think, plays into what you and I just discussed. Like, these people need to be put away, but we also need to educate humanity on how damn bad the situation was in order to restore the republic and to move the world in a better direction. Your thoughts on anything Robert David Steele said there?
No, I think he's spot on, at least about this for sure. I agree with him 100%. I think he's credible, and I agree with him in what he's saying. I also, there's been some anons that have said, and some people in the community that have said that, a lot of these people will not go down for the pizza or the child sex trafficking, even though they are involved in that. They'll go down for other things, or, they may not release all the information about the child sex trafficking. No, screw that. You have to release all the information about the child sex trafficking. People need to know the truth, because if they don't release everything that's been going on behind the scenes, it won't end. And the only way for it to end is if people know the truth and they get so enraged by the truth that we make damn sure that this never happens again. And these people are met with justice and they're put away. And, these alleged videos that they have on Wiener's laptop that, include videos of the child sexual abuse. There's apparently so many horrific videos on this laptop that it made grown policemen cry. This might be a controversial statement, but I believe those videos should be released, because people need to know what these people are doing. They need to know how big of monsters these people are, because a lot of people don't get it. They don't get it. And some people, when they hear the word pedophile or child molester, a lot of these people are thinking that, so he had sex with a girl that's 17 that looks 25. No, they're raping babies. And people need to understand the gravity of the situation. And unfortunately, I think that the only way for that to happen is if they release at least some of those videos. Now, they can edit the videos so the faces are blurred out and you don't see the full graphic content. There was one video that was released that I believe is legit, and I know you saw it, the father video that is allegedly John Podesta, torturing and raping and doing Lord knows what to a child. Now you can hear it, but you can't, it's blurred and it's dark and the lights are dark, so you can't really see the abuse, but you can hear it and you can tell that it's not acting.
Right.
And that video is so horrific and it's so bone chilling, but that is what is needed to get people to wake up.
I agree.
At least the evidence.
I completely agree. And what I want to say about that video is that whether or not that is John Podesta, it is definitely an adult torturing a child. And visually, what it appears to me is like, if you imagine one of those bathtubs with the two glass doors that shut, it's like a kid being tortured with this light show in a bathtub, probably filled with snakes, and forced to stay in there and being screamed at. I mean, it's the most horrific thing imaginable. And I guess I just will round out the conversation by saying this. For those who don't understand or don't believe what Liz is saying here about what these elites do to children, or in many cases their own children, I will reshare this information with you. DuPont heir dodged prison after raping his 3-year-old daughter. This man, Robert Richards, age 47, at least when this publication came out here in March 31st, 2014, is a DuPont family heir who pleaded guilty to raping his 3-year-old daughter, and he was never put behind bars because a Delaware judge ruled, quote, he would not fare well in prison. Goes on to say that his wife accuses him of also doing the same to their son, later to which he admitted doing it. The little girl said her father told her it was our little secret, but she didn't want him touching her anymore, according to the court documents. Folks, these are the stories that'll make you weep, and if you see the videos, my God. Liz, I'm telling you, we're at a tipping point. If humanity sees these videos, there will be nowhere on this planet for these people to hide. They'll be thankful they're at Gitmo.
No, I pray that they're released, and as awful as they are, and I mean, like, no one wants to see that stuff, but I believe it's the only way we can really end this and really save the children. And just one final note, I want people to also know, not only is this something that I've been investigating for a very long time, I wasn't a victim as a child, but I was a victim, of a horrific sexual assault. But I talk to victims every day. And I talk to victims of satanic ritualistic abuse. So I talk to adults who were victimized as children. And I talk to many of them every single day. And this is real. The victims I talk to are wonderful people. They were able to break free. They were able to heal. They were able to break the programming and recall their memories and to find God and find peace in their life. And they have no reason to lie. They gain absolutely nothing. A lot of them, weren't able to get justice for what happened to them. A lot of them weren't able to report their crimes, but I talk to these people every single day, and this is very, very real. And when you sit, face to face with a victim and you're holding someone that was raped at the age of 2 repeatedly and forced to eat human feces, okay, and you're holding them, they're sobbing in your arms, don't tell me that this stuff isn't real. It is as real as it gets, sick, and it needs to end. But people are waking up, and it's going to happen. I truly do believe that. Yeah, amen. Look, I think there's angels at work here, guys, and say what you want about Donald Trump. Maybe you didn't vote for him, but I'm telling you what, we live in a very, very different world today than if the wicked witch of the West, East, South, and North had gotten into the White House, because all of these crimes would have continued to be covered up, and that's what these people were counting on. Thank God that didn't happen. And thank God for people like Liz Crokin, investigative journalist. Visit her at lizcrokin.com and do support her at paypal.me/Liz Crokin. Do I have that right? Yeah, I think so. paypal.me/Liz Crokin. And absolutely follow her on Twitter. Liz, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sean. It was so great catching up, and I hope the next time we talk, we're talking about, seeing Tony Podesta and John Podesta being perp walked at Guantanamo. Oh my God, followed by Hillary, please, in that crazy boot of hers. She's still got the boot on, guys. That's another cute breadcrumb. That's one more thing. It's been over 2 months, and for a broken toe, it only takes 6 weeks max for a broken toe to heal. Yeah. She doesn't have broken toe, people. Yeah.
I don't know, guys. We live in exciting times, and our cup is definitely half full. So thank you so much. Visit Liz Crokin at lizcrokin.com. Follow her on Twitter, and thank you so much for supporting us at sgtreport.com. Thanks, Liz. Your kindred spirit. Love you.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys. Love you, too. Thanks so much for sharing this video and spreading the word on Twitter and within your social media circles of influence. We're counting on you to get the word out. Let's wake up our brothers and sisters in this country. We can take this thing back. The pedophiles, the elite pedophiles, they're the real enemy of humanity. God bless. Bye-bye.
Schmidt was compromised. I'll let you guys kind of break that or whatever, but I kind of think I know what you guys are going towards there. But
is it child sex trafficking?
I got to stop. I can't get into that. But I have some very information that I'll be able to release out of Palo Alto, out of the Silicon Valley information that I have here shortly. One thing at a time, I guess. But yeah, you guys are on the trail.